Creative Babble.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
By now, you've heard testimony after testimony from person after person describe years, if not decades, worth of harassment.
At a certain point, it's like, how many people have to say the same thing for her to admit that there might be something there?
That's Alicia Lockhart, one of the dozens of people who claim to be victims of LaDonna Humphrey. These victims don't understand how they got here or why they've been targeted. Maybe at one point in their relationship, they had a falling out with LaDonna. Maybe they caught LaDonna in a lie. Whatever the reason, they say LaDonna refuses to move on or to let go. Is she holding a grudge? Does she want revenge? What's her motivation? Her sister Margot has another theory.
I just honestly think she thinks it's funny. I don't know if she understands how bad it's hurt people.
When LaDonna's accusers organized a private Facebook group to compare war stories, Margot, LaDonna's sister, noticed an unusual screenshot sent to Alicia Lockhart from an unknown number, presumably from the death fetish director who was going after Alicia. Here's Margot again.
And I start to read the end of this message that began with a bunch of sexually explicit things. And the end says, I'm going to take you to the dump, to the dump, to the dump, dump, dump. To the dump, to the dump, to the dump, 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 to the dump, to the dump, to the dump, 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 to the dump.
I'm looking at the screenshots now. The message reads, quote, "I wrote a song for you. To the dump, to the dump, to the dump, dump, dump." It keeps repeating that several times, and it finally ends with, "To the dump, bust a nut in your cunt." And it continues with even more disgusting, filthy nonsense that I refuse to repeat here.
I know you probably think I'm crazy for singing it, but let me tell you why.
Okay.
When I was little and when my sisters were little, we would be like, Dad, can we go here? Can we go there? And he would be like, nope, guess where we're going to go? To the dump, to the dump, to the dump, dump, dump. He would sing. I know that sounds so stupid. It was a joke. It was just a stupid dad joke. And nobody else sings that. Nobody else did that. That's only from our family. And that I knew it was LaDonna when I read that. I gasped. I literally could not believe it. I guess it just set it in stone that it was all really her.
Alicia showed me the text thread, the same text thread that she shared with LaDonna with the "to the dump" message. LaDonna wrote back to Alicia asking, quote, "To the dump? What does that mean?" unquote. How could she not remember her own dad's "To the Dump" song? I'm sure LaDonna has a perfectly good explanation for this. Today, we're going to talk about the enigma that is LaDonna Humphrey. Like the fact that she was logged in under the same death fetish account, harassing her co-host. Yet she denies creating the account. We'll also try to untangle how LaDonna went from attacking the death fetishers to befriending them. Or perhaps her plan to pin Missy Witt's murder on Daniel Watson, despite having zero evidence. I'm Javier Leiva, and this is Pretend. Stories about real people pretending to be someone else.
Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Let's begin the episode with Daniel Watson's story, Melissa Witt's former boyfriend, which you heard from in part 5. Now that you know what you know and heard what you've heard, how can we make sense out of the following clips? First, I'm going to play you a call between LaDonna Humphrey and Daniel Watson.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm really upset.
Why? What's wrong?
Because, did you know where I've been all day?
Huh?
I got my ass dragged into the Fort Smith Police Department, and they grilled me for like 4.5 hours.
Why?
After all the work that I've done to try to help the Witt case, and then for them to, put me in this position is terrible. I mean, they made me cry. I've been crying for hours.
Why do they do that to you?
LaDonna is trying to convince Daniel Watson that the detectives working on the Melissa Witt case are circling in on him as Melissa Witt's killer. I'm not sure if LaDonna really believes that Daniel Watson is a killer and is just trying to coax him into giving a confession, or if she's egging him on to make him sound suspicious so that she could later use the audio in her podcast, book, or documentary. Either way, Daniel Watson is not buying it.
Why would they be upset with me? Why would they ask me about you?
I have no idea. It's weird.
What do I do?
I don't know. Keep doing what you're doing.
I mean, answer questions. I mean, I don't want to answer questions about my friends. Why would I want to do that?
I mean, surely by now they know I have nothing to do with it. They have my phone records.
LaDonna's trying to balance what appears to be fake crying with the frustration that whatever stunt she's trying to pull off is not working. This secret recording lasted almost 9 minutes.
All I know is I was at home and they've got my phone records. I talked to her, so I mean, there's no way I could be there at the same time, so it takes too long. The time doesn't add up.
Well, I'm on your side.
Yeah, it doesn't add up.
Daniel was very patient, but halfway through this call, he just blew his lid.
I'm done talking about it to anybody.
Well,
I'm done.
I don't know why you're yelling at me too. They're yelling at me. I'm offended.
I'm offended by them. I'm offended by they would even question. I'm done playing games with this. This is not funny to me. If y'all understood how this makes me feel, people playing around jokes about me saying that I had anything to do with it, if you knew how bad that hurt me because I love that girl, everyone would feel like shit. And when we all get to the pearly gates and God holds us accountable for all this, the people who are trying to say this stuff, y'all, I don't know whoever it is, they're the ones that are going to answer for it, not me. Because Missy's going to come out and meet me at the gate. And y'all and whoever else is the one that's going to answer. And that's all I have to say. I'm in. You can call my lawyer if you want to talk to me anymore. I'm done. I don't know what's going on. I'm done.
Now, how do we square that audio where LaDonna is concerned about her friend Daniel Watson getting questioned for Missy Witt's murder with this message LaDonna sent to Alicia about Daniel?
I was going to mention to you that this FBI interview with Daniel is pretty interesting. He made some admissions that I think are going to bite him in the ass. Things that he had told me before, but he had never told police in their initial interview with him. So he's slowly tightening that noose around his neck.
After that secret recording with Daniel Watson, LaDonna messaged Alicia and wrote, quote, "I'm pressing Daniel. I deserve an Academy Award for my performance. It's good," unquote. It was clearly just an act.
And I'm just chomping at the bit to get this asshole arrested.
I asked Alicia, who worked very closely with LaDonna for 2 years, to find out why LaDonna is so fixated on Daniel Watson. What would motivate her to make you convinced that this guy was Melissa Witt's killer?
Well, I think in some of our conversations, she would tell me that the Witt case didn't have a lot of motion at that time and that this tip was breathing life into the case. But if she knew full well the whole time that he had nothing to do with it, I think that it was just an easy opportunity for her to stand up against something and, fight for justice or look altruistic, or trying to think of the right way to phrase this. Now that I've connected with like 20 other people who have very similar experiences that I do, there's a pattern. There's a distinct pattern of LaDonna being in somebody's life and then just all this fear, just tons of fear and drama happening in various people's lives when she happens to be a part of their life. And she loves to talk with these people and help them through that. There were many times where several times a week, I would send her screenshots of something that scared me, and then we would talk through it, and she would comfort me, and she would encourage me, to keep doing the work that we were doing. It's hard to imagine somebody knowingly pushing a narrative like that, but if you think about somebody who's mentally unwell, there's all sorts of reasons why somebody might do that. They might do that because they want attention. They might do it because they're bored. They might do it because it's fun for them. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Or they might do it because they're pushing a narrative that they're trying to solve a case. Another coincidence in this case is the Mickey Mouse watch. According to LaDonna Humphrey, Missy Witt's Mickey Mouse watch was missing when they discovered her body. You see, Alicia called in a tip about a death fetish shoot centered around a Mickey Mouse watch, but it was LaDonna who convinced people, including Alicia, that this video was somehow connected to Missy Witt's killer. But let's stop and think about that for a second. Why a Mickey Mouse watch? It was the 90s. Everyone had a Mickey Mouse watch. And yes, the Mickey Mouse watch was missing when they found Melissa Witt's body, but so was every other piece of clothing and jewelry she was wearing. Melissa was found naked from head to toe, so why place so much importance on one piece of jewelry? Could it be that this Mickey Mouse watch offered a good hook for her true crime superstar ambition? Another strange paradox involving LaDonna Humphrey is this whole death fetish master account. We started talking about it during our first episode of the series, but we never really tied a bow around it. So let's do that now. Like we've already discussed, LaDonna Humphrey convinced Alicia that the death fetish director, who goes by the name of Chris Corner, could be connected to Missy Witt's killer. Either he produced the film for the killer, Daniel Watson, I'm presuming, or Chris Corner, the director, produced the film to relive what he did to Melissa himself. So Alicia and LaDonna started investigating the death fetish community, creating sock puppet accounts, and infiltrating death fetish message boards. It's been a hot minute since part 1 of the series came out, so let's recap. Anthony Christopher, LaDonna's former employer, is going to help refresh our memory and bring us back to speed.
Almost immediately, Alicia starts being attacked. I'm talking messages saying, I'm going to murder you, I'm going to kill you, all of these things.
In their podcast, Deep Dark Secrets, LaDonna Humphrey shows empathy and support for the trauma Alicia experienced.
I'm grateful that you got away with your life. I've always believed that there was a great possibility you weren't going to walk away from that situation. And so it's one of those things that hearing your story and then investigating the death fetish community has been life-changing for me.
Here's a voice memo LaDonna sent Alicia about her alleged stalker, death fetish director Chris Corner.
That fat fucking freak should not be allowed to push you to a situation where you have to change your phone number. I mean, I totally get it, and I know that it's ridiculous, but he's just playing games. I don't understand him. I don't even think he understands himself. I think whatever personality or personalities in him that actually send the text messages, I don't know, but I hope that he stopped texting you. I don't really hear from him anymore. Every now and then I'll get a bizarre text message, but nothing like what you get. And I'm not sure why. Maybe he's more afraid that I'm going to do something about it. I mean, there's very little that can be done, honestly, at this point. But anyway, I wanted to say the words fat fucking freak and send it to you.
For 2 years, Alicia and LaDonna received a constant barrage of messages from multiple different spoof emails and burner numbers. I'm looking at one Facebook message LaDonna sent Alicia. It's a screenshot of an email sent to LaDonna from a woman named Jessica Brown that read, quote, "The Death Fetish film director has plans for you. Those plans include murder. He's living in a tent in the woods near your house. He's watching, he's waiting. Just thought you should know," unquote.
Alicia said for 2 years of her life, she lived in fear that somebody was going to show up at her house and murder her. There's this account on the dark web that keeps harassing her called Fetish Master. I mean, scaring the life out of Alicia. Come to find out, LaDonna sends a screenshot of a profile she finds on the dark web one day to Alicia. And on the top right corner, she can see LaDonna's logged in as Fetish Master, the very account that had been stalking and harassing her.
I asked LaDonna about this, and she doesn't deny being logged in under the Fetish Master account. Here's what she had to say.
We've worked with a technical expert, and I was logged in under my username and then took some screenshots and didn't know. And then, yes, all that she says happened. I can't explain it technically, how it happened. Do I believe that something happened on the back end when I was logged in because they flagged my IP address? I do.
David McClam, her extinguished co-host, says that he has a perfectly good explanation for all of this.
If you did some digging into it, you will find out Fetish Master account had been created long before LaDonna or Alicia got there. I think at some point in time, whoever is running it took an extensive break.
And this just proves that David McClam is an uninformed and unreliable narrator. If you go on the Death Fetish forum and search for the username Fetish Master, you will clearly see the date the profile was created, which was on November 8th, 2022. It was created after Alicia and LaDonna met, after their podcast went live, and after the book Strangled was published. When confronted about this, LaDonna agreed that the Fetish Master account was created on November 8th at 8:47 p.m. And she pointed out that Alicia Lockhart was actually staying at her home in Arkansas that week. She told me that they were going nonstop with book signings, doing things with the kids, etc. Alicia confirmed that they were together most of this time. However, she can't account for the exact time the account was created. Alicia told me that she had shingles that night and was most likely in her room. I have screenshots of text messages that show LaDonna and Alicia texting each other from inside her house around the same time that the account was created. So that doesn't really tell us much. After my interview with LaDonna, she pointed out that there's no way that she could be behind the Fetish Master account because 13 days after the username was created, Fetish Master posted at 12:34 p.m. Eastern. She told me that she was at the doctor's office with her 2 kids at the time. She even attached a letter from the doctor confirming that the appointment took place. She says this exonerates her, but unless her children's doctor made everyone in the waiting room turn over their cell phones, I'm not buying it. The point is, we're really stretching here, right? We have screenshots proving that LaDonna was logged in as Fetish Master. Even LaDonna's not denying that. But LaDonna and team continue to find new explanations for this snafu. In the Deep Dark Secrets podcast, episode titled, Will the Real Fetish Master Stand Up?, LaDonna and her co-host Amy Smith and David McClam pontificate on how that screen name ended up on LaDonna's computer screen.
Alicia and I both had undercover accounts in multiple death fetish forums. The fetishers, as you know, were hot and heavy on our trail, and they worked hard to figure out who was behind our undercover accounts. So basically, they tracked us down. These forum administrators did that through a variety of methods, one being IP addresses.
On this particular day, LaDonna was inside one of the forums looking around, and she logged in to one of her undercover accounts. She took various screenshots, and she didn't realize that while she was logged in, that an administrator had flagged her account and either changed her name on that account or merged her account with a fetish master account that is in question.
Yeah, I truly didn't notice that anything had happened.
So their argument is that LaDonna's account and the fetish master account were merged. At first, I dismissed this explanation because it just didn't seem plausible. Come to find out, it is actually possible for a forum administrator to merge two accounts. Feeling like she had a good handle on all this, LaDonna wrote me an email saying, quote, I reached out to the website forum this weekend. I apologized to them for believing Alicia's lies, and I asked them if I could prove or disprove that I was fetish master. The forum owner explained to me that he is unable to prove or disprove on his end who was behind the account. I doubt he was interested in putting the work into it, and who can blame him? In an effort to give him an apology, I deleted any content that was left that pointed towards his online community. I asked him to also consider deleting the Fetish Master account, since I was being falsely accused of that atrocity. He agreed, unquote. What? So you're telling me that LaDonna, who had spent years attacking this guy's death fetish forum, apologized? And on top of that, she asked him to delete the Fetish Master account? And he did? Why would a forum administrator delete an account if that account did not belong to her? So I did what any good journalist would do. I reached out to the forum administrator myself. And guess what? LaDonna, you might want to sit down for this one. He told me the following, quote, well, all I can say is that I know of no way to merge two user accounts or screen names on the PHP-BB forum. So, since I am the main admin on the site, it is unlikely that such a merger took place, unquote. The admin did confirm that he recently deleted the Fetish Master account upon LaDonna's request. But here's the kicker. The account could not have been merged. You want to know why? Not because the forum administrator didn't know how to do it, but because LaDonna's Strangled Forest Girl account still exists. It wasn't merged, it was simply deactivated. So there you have it, folks. It's almost certain that LaDonna is Fetish Master. Bazinga. Which makes me wonder. LaDonna removed all the Deep Dark Secret podcast episodes featuring Alicia. She even took down the book Strangled from publication. Did she do it because Alicia was lying? Or was there another reason? Perhaps some sort of peace offering with the death fetish community. Here's David McClam once again.
LaDonna has reached out to the death fetish community, and she has made peace with them. This was extremely important to her because she did not want to feel like she had offended or hurt anyone during season 1 of Deep Dark Secrets.
LaDonna and David McClam even went as far as reaching out to the death fetish director himself, who goes by the name of Chris Coroner, and invited him on their podcast to dismiss Alicia's accusation.
I want you to hear from the producer himself about the movie he made with Alicia. Listen in as he contradicts Alicia's entire story in detail. Hey, Chris, thank you for coming on the show today. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, too. Thanks for hitting me up and so we can get this stuff straight.
Guys, can we pause here for a second? How disgusting is it for them to invite the man Alicia is accusing of assaulting her to prove a point? I mean, how low can these people go? The point Alicia is trying to make is that she had a bad experience and LaDonna used that trauma to torment Alicia and further her own career. We're not debating whether or not Alicia's account of what happened. We don't know what happened behind the scenes. LaDonna wasn't there. Neither was David McClam. Inviting Alicia's accused attacker on her podcast is not addressing the central issue at hand, which is LaDonna's harassment. LaDonna used Alicia's trauma to get a few more clicks, to sell a few more books, and to get a few more downloads. I just don't get it. David McClam publicly talks about how he is a 2-time survivor of domestic abuse, both from a parent and a partner. How would he feel if I invited his accused abusers on this show just to discredit his experience? Also, let's not forget, disproving whether Alicia was sexually assaulted or not doesn't clear the accusations that LaDonna used Alicia's trauma to get famous.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Remember, before LaDonna made peace with the death fetish community, she was conducting a full-on war.
It's creepy, and I think at this time I would like to accept the award for being the one that Jessica Brown hates the most of the three of us. So thank you very much. I will accept that award.
Jessica Brown, by the way, runs a totally different death fetish form, not the one that we talked about prior to the break.
Mainly because I'm the one that she harasses the most. I'm the one that she started this conversation with.
You may remember that David McClam, LaDonna's co-host, told me that he too gets harassing messages. Not from LaDonna. No, it was from this woman named Jessica Brown. And you mentioned in the podcast episode that you actually spoke to Jessica at one point?
I have several times, yes.
So like when you say spoke to her, you actually hopped on a call?
Not a call, but she started answering me through audio. So instead of sending me an email, she would send me an audio file, which I have all of those.
By the way, when David says that he emailed me all the evidence that I failed to produce, this is the evidence he's talking about. David sent me voice memos from Jessica. Jessica Brown is a real person. In fact, she reached out to me to set the record straight. Just start at the beginning. How did LaDonna come into your life?
She probably predated it because she uses so many fake accounts and fake emails and all. But there was this, so I run a community, I would say death fantasy. It's really more of an erotic apparel community because if you say death fetish or fantasy, it gives a really bad idea. And I'll get back to that maybe later. And one day, we got emails just out of the blue from personal emails saying, your site's being part of this investigation by something called Stop Violent Porn.
And we will talk more about the death fetish community later in a bonus episode.
They were saying, we're doing this investigation about the porn industry and how it's really negative to women and how all these websites, are causing all these different problems.
Jessica Brown tells me that LaDonna infiltrated Jessica's forum using the name Christine, and she figured out the identities of the members and started exposing their true identities.
We had closed actually temporarily a couple of these sites because, LaDonna was like doxing people. Like that's what was really bad. Like a couple of people, I don't want to say who they were, but like they had, because LaDonna had all these burner accounts and a couple different sites, she was looking through, screenshotting people's messages and stuff like that. And then she would collect all that stuff and send them to people's, employers or spouse. In one case, they sent to someone's child. And in another case, she sent to the manager of this person's, minor league sports team they were on. And, so we said, no, we can't have that. Let's just close the site until we can burn out all these accounts. But anyway, eventually on one email exchange, after all this stuff was going on and people were being doxxed from these websites, and after one email exchange, it was funny because I was emailing the Christine person, and the reply email came from LaDonna Humphrey, like a Gmail account, and it was associated with like the, was it the Oasis of Northwest Arkansas or something like that? That was the reply email. So I was like, wait a minute. So I showed a friend of mine. He said, gee, this is a classic mistake. It's like opening it in Outlook and selecting the wrong reply email. So, so it was so weird.
Essentially, LaDonna was masquerading as Christine, but accidentally revealed her true identity when she accidentally replied using her Oasis of Northwest Arkansas email address. Oasis of Northwest Arkansas, by the way, is LaDonna's nonprofit. Ruh-roh. When LaDonna slipped up and revealed her true identity, Jessica Brown says LaDonna lashed out.
But then LaDonna, as herself, said, well, I don't know why I'm getting these emails, and I'm going to sue you all for harassment or something, because she was trying to claim that we were getting her organization involved in some weird porn investigation. So that was the first I'd ever heard of this person. I mean, I'd never heard that till this email fuck up. So.
But she contacted you from that email, right?
Yeah, like it was an email to this Christine persona, and the reply came from LaDonna, whatever, at gmail.com. And that was the first I heard of her. But it seemed to me that was awfully convenient, because that had to be a fake, an accidental reply through Outlook or some other email program. Because so it was clear to me she was running that Christine email. And it was just so bizarre. So.
But she managed to blame you. Here's Alicia Lockhart.
Jessica received lots of harassing messages as well. That's what Jessica kept saying. She kept saying, I'm being harassed. And so we would have these conversations, LaDonna and I, about why is Jessica pretending that she's being harassed? And now that I know what I know, I look back at that and I think there's a strong possibility Jessica was being harassed by somebody and is still probably being harassed by somebody.
But it's all good now, right? Because LaDonna made peace with the death fetish community. And so did she reach out to you personally, or just to the other
She reached out to me. And, well, she did two things, because she reached out to me in an email and a couple others and apologized. And she also emailed me personally, and same thing. She said, she was sorry about all this, and she really hoped that, we could be friends. And she said something about doing a new a new season, that was going to focus on, human trafficking or whatever she claims she's going to focus on now. So she's like, oh, maybe I'll need your help one day with that. She was just trying to make this whole thing go away.
LaDonna's apologies were limited to the death fetishers. She refuses to apologize to the people accusing her of wrongdoing. When this podcast came out, LaDonna went on Twitter, and instead of apologizing to Alicia, she posted the title of Alicia's death fetish video so that anyone can easily find it. Then she posted a screenshot of the video with Alicia. One user said, hey, let's not harass her, and LaDonna responds, I agree, not trying to harass. But it is harassment nonetheless.
She's already gone on the defense by producing at least one podcast episode attempting to victim shame and to attack Alicia Lockhart, which I think is absolutely disgusting. I've never in my life seen somebody who pretends to be an advocate so boldly go on social media and list the exact spelling of how to find a victim video to further victimize somebody she has already victimized. It's just absolutely mind-boggling to me.
To make matters worse, LaDonna and her co-hosts once believed Alicia's story about sexual assault. Here's David McClam from a few years ago on the Deep Dark Secret podcast supporting Alicia's story.
I can tell you that whatever Alicia's going through is not fake, it's messed up. She was drugged in that video that I saw. There's the telltale signs of just being out of it in a daze, the way she responds to certain things. It was quite disturbing to me.
Compare that with David McClam today, who believes Alicia is just making it all up.
Now, in this video, and I'm not saying anything against rape victims, I do know your body does give off certain responses, whether you want them to or not. But clearly, by watching this video, they wasn't there. She was not drugged. She was not knocked out.
So the video that I participated in, yes, I agreed to film. I was paid for the video. But the agreement that I made was that I would lay on a morgue slab and just lay there and be filmed. So what happened in the video was different than what I agreed to be paid for. And there's parts of the video that I don't remember. It was quite a surprise to me that I was being touched in the way that I was. And I agree, I was not raped in that film.
I think it's kind of gross that they're even making these allegations,
I've been very transparent with everybody that I've ever talked to about me agreeing to do the film, me being paid for the film. I've made it very clear that that is the truth. I've never denied that. But for me, it just became this cautionary tale of, obviously that wasn't a safe choice for me. I regret doing that, but that doesn't make me a death fetisher.
Did you have any interest in that community, in the death fetish community, prior to that film? No. You didn't know anything about that community?
I didn't know anything about the community until LaDonna and I started working together, and I was trying to find the director's film company because he had told me the video that we made was a very strange request, like a private one-time request for somebody's private collection.
I read, Alicia, a portion of one of the emails LaDonna sent me. I have no desire to sling mud, but I am forced to defend myself. I also need to hold some things back for the lawsuit I'm filing. What Alicia is doing is wrong and is a pattern of behavior that she has been exhibiting for several years now. First the fetishers, now me, so who's next? I'm going to put a stop to her. You ask why all these people have these stories about me? I can't answer that. But if you look at them individually and get the proof of each allegation, you're going to quickly realize you are being hoodwinked by a merry band of people who have banded together under the direction of one man. Stories are being fabricated and altered to make a narrative that is quite unsavory about me. You actually have the power to help me free myself from all this. I truly hope you do your due diligence. Take a step back and ask yourself what you would do if this were happening to you or someone you love. I appreciate your understanding that I am human and I am under attack like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. I will be okay, but I need the weekend to focus on what is truly important in my life, my family. So what's your reaction to some of that?
I feel overwhelmed. It just feels like this big laundry list that I don't agree with at all. And it seems really typical of her behavior that I've seen historically. A necrophiliac porn producer is more credible than me?
LaDonna included some screenshots of Alicia's different social media profiles, and one of the accounts had the tagline, "Candy-flavored death enthusiast."
She showed that to me when we were parting ways. She said, "You don't trust me? Well, here's the reasons I have to not trust you, and I've chosen to overlook them because I love you." But here's the thing, Javier, I've been a goth chick my whole life. Since I was 12, I've always had an interest in dark, macabre things, but I am not interested in necrophilia porn. I'm interested in Halloween and true crime. There's a difference there. And just because I find death fascinating or, just because I collect bones and taxidermy, that doesn't make me a necrophiliac.
What's mind-boggling to me is trying to grapple with the two LaDonnas. Prior to their fallout, and her surrogate, David McClam, were on Alicia's side.
When I go over Alicia's story in my head, I've heard it so many times, you've been on my show with it, but it's a story that I keep analyzing and I think it's one that everybody needs to pay attention to. And that's because it shows that an innocent young girl who's looking for work unsuspectedly gets into this stuff because of money.
But now they've had a falling out, and LaDonna and her surrogates jump at any opportunity to discredit her. LaDonna most likely is ghostwriting blog articles, smearing Alicia Lockhart. LaDonna also created a subreddit devoted to attacking me and her other victims. In it, she described Alicia as chubby. She wrote, quote, "Give this girl a donut or Weight Watchers," unquote. She then described Alicia's privates in vivid and disgusting ways. I don't even want to repeat that here out of respect for Alicia. By the way, I don't have proof that LaDonna wrote all this, but come on, who else is fixated on shaming Alicia? The subreddit has since been banned. Let's continue my conversation with Alicia Lockhart. We've had multiple conversations about your sexual assault, and it makes me uncomfortable every time because it's every time I ask you about it, I feel like I'm bringing it back up, bringing back some trauma. But I want this to be the last time I ask you about this. How does it make you feel that they are discrediting your experience by claiming that, well, you got paid for this?
The fixation now seems to be on whether or not I was sexually assaulted. Why is that the focus at this point? I don't understand how all these people were so supportive and gentle and kind to me about this situation for years. And now all of a sudden I'm a liar. Like, where was this conversation 2 years ago? Why didn't any of them pull me aside and say, hey, we can't publish something if you don't have a police report, some sort of allegation on record towards him? I don't understand why they wouldn't have mentioned some sort of discomfort or disbelief with my situation at that point when we were writing the book, or when we spoke about it on our own podcast, or when we spoke about it on various other podcasts and interviews, when we did stage talks at CrimeCon or True Crime Fest. Like, where was this disbelief during all of that time? One of the really hard things about that was, like, it's just, I reached out to LaDonna just because I thought that sharing my experience might be a significant information that would, like, help somebody else. And, sorry, hold on.
It's okay.
At the time that I reported this video, I didn't know that I had been sexually assaulted. I used to use the word molested because I'm not, they're right. I'm not being raped in the video, but I'm being touched, and there are things in the video that I don't remember happening. So, I don't know if that means that I just, like, disassociated because I was so uncomfortable, or if there was something more sinister going on there. I haven't made that claim because that's not fair for me to say. I don't know. But when I found the video and we reviewed it together, I almost feel like I was groomed by LaDonna. And this is just my opinion, but when I go back and read us processing this together, the finding of this video, she's basically telling me that she's so angry about what this man did to me, and that she believes that he drugged me, and that I don't look fully there in the video. And she just spent months convincing me that this man that filmed me was Missy Witt's murderer, and that he was texting me. And it's really hard to hear all these people that were supportive of me sharing something so personal and so embarrassing. And now they're just like, I'm sorry, it's just really hard.
It's okay, Alicia. I mean, I think you're reaching this breaking point, because you don't have to be out here talking about this,
I didn't know that they all thought this, or that they were all saying this until this week. Because they've all been very supportive in the past. Like, even David McClam, who I say nothing but good things about. Like, he even interviewed us in the podcast of his, and he said he went and watched the video and that he was so upset because it was so obvious to him that I had been drugged and taken advantage of. And, like, just to hear that he's telling people that he doesn't believe that, I don't understand what changed.
It's sad, Javier. It's sad that this girl cannot even allow herself to begin to heal from what has happened to her. And then this person that was supposed to be her best friend, her co-podcaster, an advocate for the unjust, is going around and throwing this video back in her face in an attempt to scare her, to intimidate her, and to push her back into hiding. And again, all of this is very indicative of how she treats and goes after her victims that end up choosing to speak up or to tell their story. And this is why we have so many victims to this day that continue to remain in hiding.
And what's really interesting too is that not only does she discount Alicia's experience, both on social media and in her podcast, but she also went the extra mile of making peace with the death fetish community. What's your reaction to that?
It's just, at the end of the day, Javier, it's the same song and dance. She's willing to blame everything that she has done on anybody else in an attempt to come out smelling like a rose. Unfortunately, too many victims are speaking out. There's too much evidence. And at this point, she's not going to be able to defend these actions outside of a public apology of the people that she's hurt. And unfortunately, that will never come out of LaDonna's mouth.
That's it for today's episode. Of course, you could always listen to bonus and early releases on Patreon and Pretend Plus. As I said earlier in the episode, we are going to have a bonus episode with Jessica Brown and my conversation with her. I don't want to give a platform to death fetishers, but I was curious about certain things, and I bet you are too. And my conversation with Jessica Brown was super pleasant and not graphic at all. So I think you will find that very interesting. I also have a doozy of an episode coming up about LaDonna's nonprofit organizations. I was going to release it earlier on in the season, but instead, Reddit beat me to it. If you haven't been following the subreddit /LaDonna Humphrey talk, oh my gosh, it is fascinating. This story has taken on a life of its own. There are over 400 members since this recording, and these internet sleuths have looked into LaDonna's nonprofits, and they are exposing all kinds of stuff. What makes this season so different is the interactive portion of the show, because you have my show going on, then you have this subreddit that's just taken on a life of its own. And then you also have David McClam, who has started his own counter podcast where I guess it's a reaction podcast to the Pretend podcast. Never had that happen before, where he gets to go on there and talk about things other than the accusations against LaDonna. Basically, it's a podcast shaming everyone who's accusing LaDonna of wrongdoing. But I'm sure David McClam sleeps great at night. And I continue to get spoof emails from LaDonna Humphrey. Fun. So yeah, there's all kinds of ways that you could interact with this season. Again, if you're riveted by this story, you're one of the few because the season's still not that popular. So it's your job to leave a review, tell me what you think of the show. You can do that right on the Spotify app too. It's really cool. You could actually message and talk about the episode. You could also join Patreon for free and use the message boards as a great platform for that. But most importantly, just tell a friend about this podcast and this show. If you find it interesting, share it. All right, that's it for today's episode. This episode was written and produced by me, Javier Leiva. It was also produced by Alison Byrne, edited by the talented Puneeth Shenoy with the Podcast Pundits, and the theme music by Joe Basile with thechicken.net. All right, guys, let me know what you think of the show. Talk to you soon.